Welcome to 99 Yards, American football for UK fans. I am your host Liz Bhandari, and this week I'm joined by George Somerville, Ryan Conway and Shona Duthie. How is everyone? Can you believe it's our final show of 2018?
I'm well, thank you, Liz. And I can't believe that it's the last show of 2018 and 99 Yards Towers has got all its tinsel up, and Ryan Conway's got his now infamous Packers Christmas jumper on, so it must be Christmas.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, thanks, Liz. This year's gone really quickly. More upsetting is how quickly the NFL season's going as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, can it slow down a little bit? Because when it gets past the Super Bowl, I get depressed for 6 months when football's not around.
Yeah, it's going to be here before you know it. In this week's podcast, we'll look at the recent slips for the two teams we all suspected for the Super Bowl, Kansas City Chiefs and LA Rams. We're going to look at the Panthers' losing streak and the Ravens moving on from Joe Flacco, as well as maybe where he could end up next. So let's kick off this week's podcast with the news of Carolina Panthers safety Eric Reid, who has taken aim yet again at the NFL's drug testing policy. He's basically been selected for a 7th time for a random test this season. To me, it just makes no sense. I don't get it. Why is it that they keep targeting him? There must be something they're aware of. Somebody's clearly said something. There's got to be a reason why they keep testing him. It can't be random, can it?
No, I don't think it is, and to me it makes perfect sense. The NFL want to catch Eric Reid, violating the substance of abuse policy. That is something very bold to say about, but I don't believe for 1 second that the NFL is very comfortable having Eric Reid on a team. So I believe that this is a concerted effort to try and make his playing days pretty frustrating and miserable in any way they can.
I don't feel like it's random anymore, as they keep saying. It's 7 times he's been tested now in 11 games. I thought I read somewhere that there was a rule that a player can't be tested over 6 times in a season, but obviously that's not been the case with Eric Reid. And also, I didn't realize until quite recently that his case against the NFL is still active because he filed a grievance in May. I agree with Ryan. If that's still open and he's playing, and they will try and catch him out in any way they can, but they're not going to catch him out on nothing like that. I don't think, because he's not going to do anything that's stupid, because he's been wanting to play for so long. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I think you're right, to be honest. I mean, if my opinion kind of is, if he's not been caught in this past 6-7 times, he's clearly not doing anything. So kind of get him, if you really want to do it, try when it's not in season. But I don't know, I just don't understand any of it. I know he's not the only player that's having this, so I think it's ridiculous.
I mean, it might be a case of they know they're not going to catch him this way, but if they make him feel that uncomfortable, he'll just be like, I don't want to play anymore. It could. I mean, I don't think he will do that, but it could be that's what they're thinking that they can do.
Yeah. And if that is the case, you can put that as evidence with your Colin Kaepernick stuff, because if the NFL is actively trying to run a player out of its league by abusing their power and mistreating him, it's disgusting.
And meanwhile, Reid's team, the Carolina Panthers, they're basically in turmoil. They've lost their last 6 games, going from a record of 6-2 to now 6-8. What went wrong there?
I'm not quite sure what went wrong, really. I was really excited about the Panthers, but I just feel, as much as I love him, Cam Newton needs to be rested. I don't see them making the playoffs. He's been playing with this shoulder injury. So if he has a second shoulder injury in less than 2 years, they need to give him some time out. The problem is that they don't have. I don't really know if they have a backup plan for that. But if you look at what Andrew Luck, at the Colts, he had to do the same thing. So I don't know what the Panthers need to do, but they need to look after their number one man, and that is Cam Newton. And at the moment, I don't really think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot's been said about his shoulder injury, and he's just not getting out. He's even come out and said that he's wholly frustrated by the whole situation, and he's saying it's not the root cause, but you can't help but think that the fact is he can't throw the ball deep. So they're reverting to the running game. Teams know they're reverting to the running game as much as I think Christian McCaffrey's been a bit of a revelation. In NFL since he came in, it's become very predictable for them. The road form is awful. If you look back over the last 6 games, I think five of those or 4 of those have been on the road, and they've lost them all. And I think the question now is, do they just rest or bench Cam Newton now for the rest of the season, because it's done and dusted, and then start fresh next season?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Shona said about Cam Newton's shoulder is obviously a factor, not only in his passing game, but I think it's factoring in how he's being called when it comes to run the football, because obviously you can get lit up when you're in open field then, which you don't want to then damage your shoulder further. But it's interesting to look at their losses. I mean, barring the blowout to the Steelers, they've been in all the games. They lost by a point to the Lions, 3 to Seattle, 7 to Tampa, 6 to Cleveland, 3 to New Orleans. These are all really close games. So when it's crunch time in the fourth quarter, something's going awry in the game plan, or the play calling, or something like that. And I think that the defense only has one takeaway since week 9. One interception since week 9. That came against Drew Brees in the Monday night game. So that isn't helping. When you can't really give your QB extra possessions to try and put these kind of games to bed. But it's almost inexplicable how they've lost 6 games, considering before this run. Cam was playing arguably at the level that he played at when he won the MVP, and this defense was playing lights out. It's crazy how far they've fallen in 6 weeks.
Several head coaches have had their say on long-time franchise quarterbacks lately, each given a different message. For example, the Giants believe that Eli has several years left in him, whereas it looks like Baltimore are moving on from Joe Flacco. What are your thoughts on this, and where could Flacco move next?
It's not really a surprise to me that the Ravens are, thinking of trading Joe Flacco, because they've just traded, they drafted Lamar Jackson in the draft this year, and he's been incredible since he's been playing. I kind of said at the start of the season, Joe Flacco's playing for his job, but for the first 2 games, and then all of a sudden he was back to the original Joe Flacco that I've been seeing for the past few years. I do feel for him though a little bit, but it's not a surprise that they're thinking of moving him on. In terms of where I think he could go, maybe he'd be a good fit at the Jacksonville Jaguars if they are thinking of moving on from Blake Bortles, or the Redskins, because we don't know how long Alex Smith's going to be out for with his injury, because he revealed the other day that he actually got an infection in his injury, which that could mean his playing career could be over. Hopefully not, but it could be a lengthy delay in for him coming back. So yeah, it would be quite interesting, and I might even mention the Raiders too, because you never know what John Gruden's doing up there with pure old Derek Carr.
So I guess a lot of this, because I think right, Shona, I think there's a chance that we see a little bit of a quarterback merry-go-round happens. I think it was interesting, the Giants coming out and being quite public about Eli and saying that he's got years left in him. So the big debate is, the Giants picked Saquon Barkley in the draft this year. Clearly got a talented player, but they took Barkley over any one of the 5 quarterbacks that are now starting in the NFL. And this year's draft of quarterbacks is nowhere near as healthy. So unless I'm missing something, the Giants kind of have to stick with Eli going forward. But I still think that Eli has potential to end up in Jacksonville. I think the Tom Coughlin relationship there is still very strong, and I think everyone thinks that Blake Bortles won't be in Jacksonville for too much longer. So I think that there's a good chance then that Eli may move on. Although I'm not sold on that idea. Here's my problem. My problem is I've never been a big fan of Joe Flacco, and I never really see what he brings to the party. And I thought timing was everything. He got that huge contract on the back of the Super Bowl win, and kudos to him for that. But I just never really see what he really brings, and so therefore, when I look at other teams who are looking for quarterbacks, I'm not sure that I see a massive upgrade by bringing Joe Flacco in. I think Shona's right. I think the one place that it looks as if they are in real need of a QB is in Washington, because fingers crossed and all that Alex Smith makes a speedy recover, but he's only just out of hospital, I think, this week, and that's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding process for him. So if I was Washington, I would try and get somebody in who's going to be able to help out. I think who knows what's going to happen in Oakland, because that is just a crazy show that's going on. But when I look at the Giants, the Dolphins, another one that were touted as maybe somewhere where Flacco could end up if they decide to move on from Ryan and Tannehill. I really don't see that being an upgrade, to be honest. So I kind of struggle with where poor Joe might end up. But I think Jackson's start at Baltimore has been really, really good. And of all the quarterbacks that came out of the draft, I know he was the last one to be picked in the first round, but he was the one to me that has the potential to stand out because his game is so different. And it's interesting that they've got, I think they've still got RG3 there at the same time, very similar types of running backs. So hopefully Jackson can learn from the mistakes that RG3 had in terms of, he wanted to run with the ball. So exciting times in Baltimore.
The interesting thing about Flacco is his contract. I mean, he's due $18.5 million base in 2019. The out in his contract isn't actually until the end of next year, where a team can get out of it with $8 million, dead in the cap. He's 33 years old as well, and like George said, scrolling through the teams, there's not a lot that you go, they could do with Joe Flacco. I'm very reticent about the Washington argument because Washington traded for Smith. Do you want to give up more capital to get Flacco when you have no idea about Smith? It seems this off-season at least, you will have no clarity on what Smith's condition will be like going forward. And I don't think any team should be giving up a lot of draft capital or a lot of any draft capital to get Joe Flacco when there's, you don't really know what your starting QB, who you traded for and gave a huge contract to, is going to be like. So for me, the Washington thing, while there is a need at the position, to me is an absolute non-starter because of the financial implications and obviously the recovery of Alex Smith, who we all really want to see get back on the field. The Dolphins and Raiders are interesting ones. I thought the Raiders as well, actually, because I was like, John Gruden will trade Derek Carr for like a bag of gummy bears or something, and then go and pick up
some jelly beans.
And go and pick up Flacco with his 3 first round picks. But yeah, he's almost, for me, I compared Flacco when I was doing my notes for this early. He's almost like in Tyrod Taylor, sort of a category where he'd be an okay bridge, but you're going to have to overpay him, and you're probably going to bench him at some point as well because his play is going to dip significantly. That's kind of who he is. I mean, when the Ravens started at 3-1, he was playing lights out, like Shona said. He had like 8 touchdowns, 2 picks at that point, and was playing really well. And then he reverted to type and was kind of just the 20th best quarterback in the league. I'm not sure who's given him $18 million, who's trading for him and honouring his contract, unless he restructures it. To get Joe Flacco. No thanks.
I can't see him not going anywhere though. That's the thing. I do see a team picking him up because he has that. He has won a Super Bowl and he has been at that team Baltimore for such a long time. Someone will go for him.
The interesting decision would be if a team does what the Browns did last year, where they trade for him and draft a rookie, and sort of let Flacco be the bridge guy. That could be one scenario I could maybe talk myself into. In fact, I've just done it right now. But that's maybe one scenario where I could maybe see a team's logic behind giving up, maybe a little bit to go and get Flacco.
Now, in college football, it's the period between regular season and bowl games. So teams are making decisions about coach and staff for the next academic year. George, you're our leading man in this area. Which teams have made the moves to change coaches? Who looks to have come out on top? And which coaches are currently looking vulnerable?
So there's been quite a lot of change. Bear in mind that most of the teams, there's a large percentage of teams who are now bowl eligible. So, they're now in preparation for... It's a funny period in college because you've got a lot of the students who are trying to finish off degrees. So some may be sitting exams to graduate, and also they're in preparation for bowl games. So the 4 playoff teams have all reported back for training this week in preparation for the playoff games at New Year. But clearly there is those sides which haven't had successful years, and quite a few of them have taken the opportunity to refresh their coaching staff. The last time I was on the pod, I talked about the fact that Urban Meyer at Ohio State had intimated it or announced that he was going to retire after the bowl game this season. So they've replaced Urban Meyer at Ohio State with Ryan Day, who was their offensive coordinator. So there's a bit of a seamless change there. Mixed views on that, because clearly there's a lot of things been happening at Iowa State, not good things happening at Ohio State over the last few years. So I think the general thinking is that to hand the baton to someone who's been involved in all of that is maybe not the best statement to make. But as we know, and I've said time and time again, Ohio State haven't handled this situation particularly well. But again, I think Day has as an offensive coordinator, has had a pretty good track record there. So from a footballing sense, it probably makes some sense. Some really exciting hires. Les Miles has returned back to the game, and I think everyone's just delighted that he's back. The Mad Hatter, who was at LSU for such a long period of time and had a great record there, Gravani's course at LSU left, and then bizarrely didn't have a job. He went into commentating. He's been picked up by Kansas, so Kansas in the SEC, but probably one of the lowest graded teams in the SEC, so he's got a job in his hands. So I think he's glad to be back, but he's definitely got a job on his hands. The old timer, Mac Brown, who was at Texas for the longest time, he too went into commentating and found a job back at his original alma mater at North Carolina, the Tar Heels. So that will be an interesting one to watch, and I think that might be a bit of a winner actually, because clearly at 70, 75, 76, he's not there for the long term, but I think Mac Brown's just got the gravitas that can pull that. The UNC Tar Heels are just one of these massive football programs. It's slightly overshadowed by the basketball team, but still, I think Mac Brown brings back some sensibility to that program, and I think has a potential to pull it forward. And then some that are maybe less well known, Manny Diaz came out of defensive coordinator at Miami, came out and got a job at head coach at Temple, and that's interesting because in this offensive world that we all live in, and none more so than college, Manny Diaz is considered to be probably, if not the best, one of the leading defensive wizards in the college game. So I think Temple's a good place for him to go to, and I think that's a really exciting hire. And then the last one I was going to talk about was Mike Loxley went to Maryland. Now Mike's got a little bit of a track record previously at Maryland. He's got ties there, but he was a quarterback coach and then offensive coordinator at Alabama recently. So he oversaw Tua Tagovailoa's initial season in in college football. So I think he's credited a little bit with how that's going. And clearly, Maryland's another program which has had a lot of problems over the last couple of years. So what they've done, what OSU, Ohio State haven't done, and they've just wiped the slate clean. They've got rid of everything that DJ Durkin had there, and they've started afresh, which I think is a very strong message if you're trying to build your program back up. So I think that's quite an interesting one. In terms of vulnerable coaches, Willie Taggart at Florida State has had a simply dreadful first year, and Florida State's a huge program. Florida State held the longest streak in college football for being bowl eligible. So bowl eligibility means that you've got a winning season. Florida State held that record 36 straight years bowl eligible. And guess what? Willie Taggart's first year as head coach, and he lost that streak. So that's not a streak you would want to lose. So down in Tallahassee, the natives are pretty unrestless just now. So and I dare say it, Scott Frost at Nebraska. I don't necessarily think he's his jacket's on a shaky peg yet, but he got off to a very poor start, and I think high expectations were thought of Scott Frost, so he's definitely got a difficult start to the year. If he can get off to a good start, then he's fine, but if he doesn't, I think he finds himself under pressure. So a lot of changes. I fully expect that come January the 2nd, there'll be a lot more changes, but those were all pretty exciting hires over the last week or so.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I'm intrigued to see how it pans out over the coming weeks as well. Moving on, the presumed favourites to make the Super Bowl was looking to be Kansas City Chiefs and LA Rams. However, they seem to have run into a bit of trouble as of late. How concerned should Andy Reid and Sean McVay be right now?
So I think of the two, Sean McVay probably should be the more concerned, because the Rams seem to just have fallen away quite dramatically. And while there's concern for all parts of the team, I think at quarterback, I think it's becoming a little noticeable that the QB's lost his form. I think up until the bye week, he'd thrown 26 touchdowns for 6 interceptions. He had a passer rating of 113.5 and was considered to be one of the best in the NFL. In the last 3 games, that passer rating has fallen to 51.3, and he's now worse than Josh Rosen, who hasn't thrown a touchdown since November. So I think, and Sean McVay has said this week that he needs to try and get the team back on a winning run, and I think Jared Goff is going to find himself under a lot of pressure just now, because after the first half dozen games, I thought the Rams were surefire winners of the Super Bowl. So it just shows you how quickly that can change.
Yeah, I think it can't be overstated how much the Rams missed Cooper Kupp as well. Like that was Goff's guy. And they could do so much with him, and he helps so much. And you can see how much it's becoming very visible now what he adds to the offense. And I mean, the loss in Philadelphia, Jared Goff threw 54 passes. The loss against Chicago, he threw 44. Now his his uptick in form under Sean McVay has been remarkable. I'm not comfortable with the Rams winning games with him, throwing over 40 passes. And the idea was floated that maybe the Rams' play calling has been figured out, that it's zone read stuff, it's play action, and then just a boatload of screens. So that McVay's got some work to do heading into January. That the benefit is that he's got his team to the dance. I have a lot of concerns over Kansas City. This defense is not good, and to put the amount of pressure that Patrick Mahomes is going to be under is, especially in playoff football, is a recipe for disaster. Now, obviously, the the last 2 Super Bowls have been shootouts, and I documented this in an article for 99 Yards, which you can go and check out, is that at some point teams have to play championship defense, and Kansas City don't and haven't done all year. For me, they're a regular season monster, and I think they'll get found out seriously in January.
Yeah, I agree with George. I think, and Ryan actually about the Chiefs, but I do agree with George in the fact that the Rams, the past couple of weeks, just haven't been at the races. Obviously, it's the first back-to-back losses they've experienced in the McVay era, which is, for over 2 years, that is quite impressive. However, if they don't win in week 16, that's 3 losses in a row, and they need to do something quickly, I think, to turn it all around. Otherwise, they're going to get to the playoffs and they're going to get eliminated right away for the second year. In my opinion as well, they're not going to get the top seed in NFC. I think that's 100% going to the New Orleans Saints. If I was the Rams, I would be 100% wanting to get home advantage, and I don't think they will now. But at the beginning of the season, I absolutely thought they would be, and I actually thought this is just going to be a straight LA Rams victory to the Super Bowl. With the Chiefs, yeah, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, their defense is mucky at best. So it should be really interesting to see what happens on Sunday against Seattle, because obviously that is a must win for both teams since they both lost in week 15. So that will be very interesting to watch, and I might have to watch that behind my sofa.
I think from a Rams perspective, they've got the Cardinals next, which is a ferocious defense. They don't get the credit that they absolutely should because their record's so bad. And Todd Gurley's a bit nicked up. Now, I don't care if he's good to go on Sunday. I would, exercise with caution with Todd Gurley, because if he goes down, forget the Super Bowl. That's a massive game. It's easy to sneer at the Cardinals, not being good, but their defense is good. And it'll make life very tough for Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. So it's a bigger game than I think it appears to be on paper. Especially Sean said, because if they lose 3 in a row, you have zero momentum going into January.
When you look at the Rams I think are the only team to have started the same 5 offensive linemen in all of their games, which leads me to believe that they're actually suffering from a loss of form now, because you can't cite injuries. You can cite tiredness, but that's the same for every team. And I think that's the big concern for me, that actually they're suffering by way of form. And I always think there's pressure on every team, but there's pressure on the Rams this year because they've gone all in to win a Super Bowl. Their contract structure, the players they've brought in, there's no way that this team remains the same in 2 years' time. That this team breaks up in a couple of years. So, you don't know whether teams will really just relish in that pressure, or whether they'll crumble in that pressure. And I'm not saying they're crumbling, but there's certainly a lack of form. And I think when your captain and your quarterback, and I agree with all of what Ryan said. I think he's suffering from a number of different things, but when that pressure starts to appear and manifest itself, I hope it's not the case. But I get the feeling that maybe the Rams are a little bit of a spiral.
I do think as well, and I've said this for quite a while now, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, I can't see them winning it anytime soon. That's just my personal opinion, because like you said, George, their team is going to have to break up. They can't afford to keep Goff on what will be his new contract and have all that players around them. It's going to be tough for them if they don't win it this year.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. It absolutely is.
And before we end the show, just for a giggle, in the spirit of Christmas, which NFL star or stars would you like to invite around for Christmas dinner? I'll kick it off. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson and the Griffin brothers. The reason why is They'd be super polite. They'd probably help make dinner with you. They'd even probably help wash up, which is perfect for me because I don't cook and I don't really clean. That's just not me. So who would you go with?
Cam Newton, easy. And that's I don't need a plethora of people. Cam Newton, me and Cam would sit and talk fashion, and I'd only have to cook for one extra person, so that's fine.
I need to see that pictures of what you both guys would be wearing that day, because I bet you it would be on point.
There are hat shops all over the world clambering for that contract,
and like blazer companies and trousers, the full works.
The mixtape will be fire as well.
I would have, first of all, Nico Thorpe, because he's my Techno Thursday guy, because Christmas Day is on Tuesday this year, so Techno Tuesday. Pick up some tunes, dance the day away, have your dinner and dance it off. That's what you need with Nico around.
It's going to be Sandstorm, right?
Absolutely has to be Sandstorm. And I have to learn his Running Man. I tried it last time, but it didn't work very well. But you can see that our great dancing skills on Twitter, guys, because it's great and we're fabulous. And I would also have DJ Fluker, because that guy is so cool. I need him to tell me how he wears his hair like that. He just oozes coolness, and I miss him on the O-line. Can he come back quickly, please? I'll feed him some turkey and then shove him in the playoffs. Hopefully.
You're such a name dropper, Shona. My dancing partner, Dancing with Stars. So I openly admit I relish listening to CBS football these days. I just absolutely love Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. So my Christmas party is Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Erin Andrews. I get the full complement of the cast. We've got the football on, and who wouldn't love listening to Tony Romo commenting on the carving of the turkey, right? I mean, come on, that would just be special.
That would be like music to the ears, but like soothing.
I know, it would be great. I'd love it. You get so excited.
You could set up a little booth in your kitchen and put him behind there and let him call the dinner proceedings while you prepare it all.
And it would just sound as if it was the best dinner of all time. I mean, because he just makes every game, even the worst games, he makes them sound fantastic. So, yeah, go Tony Romo.
And then me and Nico can come round after and give you a little dance show.
Yeah, and then the Hats brothers will appear, and it's all shaping up to be quite the shindig, right?
Quite a big Christmas.
Wait until I slide into Cam's DMs about the Hat brothers.
And then we can get Russell and Shaquem and Shaquille round, and they can just do the dishes.
Perfect. And I'm just going to sit there and eat all the chocolate.
I'm sure the twins would be actually quite fun to hang around as well. They look really fun on Twitter and everything.
Yeah, definitely.
The games they play like with each other and stuff, like the jokes one they did a couple of weeks ago, and I was in absolute fits watching it.
And it wasn't, just to reflect back, wasn't that just fantastic having them in London this year? I just thought that was just an incredible story. As don't want to bore, but watching them both coming through college, but latterly, and seeing him drafted in the draft, going to Seattle where his brother was, and then lo and behold, they appear in London. Brilliant story, love it. Best story of 2018.
Yeah, it really is. I love it. I love that. Every time I see his little face as well, I mean, it's not little, I'm sure he's like running me over, but every time I see his face, I'm like, I'm so happy for him.
Well, that's all for 99 Yards this week and for 2018. To all of our listeners, we hope you have a wonderful Christmas full of all the NFL merchandise and goodies you could wish for, and we'll see you in the new year, ready for the playoffs and the countdown to the Super Bowl. Thanks for listening.